Sometimes prosperity dies quietly in a corner of your own home, and you never even notice the moment it stops breathing. That idea shocked me the first time I sensed it, like a cold hand on the back of my neck. Because if something in my house could suffocate my money, what else was it stealing from me? I want you to hold that question for a heartbeat, because it carries the same weight that changed the way I walk through my own doorway. And before we go deeper, I invite you to do one simple thing. Write in the comments a short sentence naming something you feel might be holding you back. Not because I want engagement, but because when you declare something publicly, you summon a kind of spiritual accountability. In Jewish wisdom, intention becomes stronger when spoken aloud, witnessed, and anchored in community. And now, let me take you to the moment when I first understood how real this truth was. I was visiting an old teacher, a man whose silence carried more weight than the words of most people. His home was simple, but everything in it felt purposeful, as if each object had been chosen for the way it shaped the energy of the room. I remember standing there, feeling a strange contrast between that place and my own cluttered shelves back home. He looked at me and said something that still echoes inside me, that abundance does not enter a house that is already full of what no longer serves. I felt the sentence land like a stone dropped into a deep well. It made me wonder what I had been carrying, what I had been keeping just because I feared letting go. And it was in that quiet realization that I sensed the approach of a truth I had avoided for years. A truth about a single object almost everyone keeps at home without question. An object that seems harmless but whispers stagnation into the walls and floors. An object that, once removed, changes the flow of money in ways most people never imagine. I will tell you what it is. Yet before I name it, you need to understand the spiritual laws that make it dangerous. Because without that foundation, the revelation would feel like superstition. But with it, everything clicks. So breathe with me for a moment and let your awareness settle between curiosity and caution, because what comes next is not merely information, it is a doorway. A doorway into understanding how the unseen shapes the seen, how a forgotten object can knot the threads of your livelihood, and how a single act of removal can set them free again. As we step forward, keep your earlier comment in mind, because the object I am about to reveal may speak directly to the burden you named. And when you finally see its identity, you may also see the quiet ways it has been shaping your financial destiny without ever asking your permission. In Jewish wisdom, nothing in your home is merely decoration, and nothing is ever truly neutral. Every object is a vessel, a container of memory, intention, and spiritual weight. Some carry light, others carry shadows, and some, without you knowing, become gates that either welcome abundance or quietly push it away. This understanding is older than any written scroll, whispered long before sages carved meaning into parchment. And it is here, in this ancient lens, that the mystery of the forbidden object begins to reveal its shape. I grew up hearing that the physical world is only the outer skin of something deeper, something that vibrates beneath the surface. The sages call it kelepot, the shells that cling to us and dim the inner light. Objects, too, gather these shells. They absorb the emotional residue of their owners, the history of the hands that touch them, the intentions spoken or left unspoken around them. And when an object becomes saturated with stagnant energy, it forms a spiritual blockage, a kind of invisible dam holding back the river of prosperity that tries to flow into your life. Once, I asked a rabbi why some homes seem to breathe with abundance while others feel heavy even before you step inside. He smiled gently, as if I had asked a question every soul eventually confronts, and said, "A house is a mirror. It shows what the soul is ready or not ready to receive." His answer stayed with me, and over the years, I realized that prosperity is not only a matter of work or talent, it is also a matter of spiritual alignment. When the energy of your home contradicts the energy of abundance, Jewish tradition says the blessing cannot land. This is why the forbidden object matters so deeply. It is not about superstition nor about fear. It is about understanding that your environment participates in your destiny. This object, harmless as it appears, carries an echo of scarcity, loss, or spiritual heaviness. It acts like a sponge, absorbing the emotional residue of moments you'd rather forget. And each time you walk past it, even without noticing, your mind and your spirit register that echo. What fascinates me is how this teaching has survived across centuries, moving through scholars, mystics, merchants, mothers, and wanderers, as though everyone who lived it felt the need to pass it forward. Not as a warning, but as a key that unlocks a new way of seeing your home and your life. And as these threads of ancient understanding weave together, we begin to glimpse why a single object could block your wealth, your creativity, your ambition. Yet before we name it, we need to look one layer deeper, into the space where your inner world and your outer world reflect one another so precisely that removing one physical item can shift your entire spiritual posture. And that is where we go next. The deeper I went into this teaching, the more I realized that the true blockage to prosperity never begins with the object itself. It begins with the person who keeps it. Your house is not just a place where you sleep. It is a living portrait of your inner life. Every corner carries a whisper of your beliefs. Every forgotten drawer reveals what you avoid. Every object reflects a piece of your story that you haven't fully released or embraced. And when money refuses to flow, it is often because your environment is faithfully mirroring an inner resistance you have not dared to name. In Jewish thought, the home is called a mikdash miyat, a small sanctuary, not because it must be perfect, but because it must be honest. And when we hold on to things that no longer represent who we are becoming, they create a spiritual contradiction. You ask the heavens for abundance, yet you keep physical reminders of scarcity. You pray for movement, yet surround yourself with the symbols of stagnation. You seek new beginnings, yet cling to objects soaked in the energy of old endings. I once knew a man named Ezra, a quiet shopkeeper who had survived more setbacks than most people experience in a lifetime. His store never prospered, though he worked tirelessly. One day, a visiting rabbi walked through his home and stopped in front of a small, dusty item left on a shelf. It was something Ezra had kept only out of habit, something he barely noticed anymore. But the rabbi's face grew serious. He said, "This object holds the memory of your hardest season. Every time you see it, even unconsciously, your spirit remembers loss." Ezra had never thought of it that way. But later he told me that the moment he touched the object, he felt an old heaviness rise in his chest, one he had carried for years. He removed it that same day. And though life does not change like magic, something in him shifted. Within 3 days, he received an unexpected opportunity that became the turning point of his finances. When he told me the story, he didn't say, "Removing the object made me richer." He said, "Removing it made me ready." This is the invisible cause of blocked prosperity, the contradiction between what you say you want and what your environment says you're prepared to receive. Spiritual laws respond to readiness, not desperation, and the objects you unconsciously hold on to can declare, "I am not ready," even when your heart begs for breakthrough. What makes the forbidden object so dangerous is precisely this. It aligns your home with the vibration of scarcity without your awareness. And once you understand how these physical and spiritual mirrors operate, you begin to see why the sages warned against keeping certain things indoors. Because the next layer of this mystery is not just psychological, it is anchored in sacred law. And that ancient wisdom is where our path now leads. In the old books, the ones whose pages feel like thin breaths of time, there are teachings that speak directly to the unseen forces shaping a person's fortune. The Talmud teaches that disorder, neglect, and certain objects create a spiritual blockage known as miyakev, something that delays or restricts the arrival of blessing. Not because heaven is punishing you, but because light cannot enter a space that energetically contradicts it. And the forbidden object we are moving toward belongs exactly to this category, a keeper of old energy, a quiet disruptor of sacred flow. The sages often spoke in metaphors, but their meaning was unmistakable. They warned, "Where there is decay, there is no dwelling for the divine presence." It is not only literal decay they meant, but spiritual decay. Objects that hold the vibration of endings, misfortune, or emotional collapse. In Jewish mysticism, everything a person owns becomes part of their field, the energetic extension of the soul. So when you bring an object into your home, you are not decorating, you are inviting its history to sit at your table. This is why the Talmud emphasizes intention in every corner of the house. A space filled with clarity invites clarity. A space filled with gratitude welcomes abundance. A space holding remnants of past struggle keeps the spirit bound to cycles that should have already ended. And when an object holds the imprint of loss, stagnation, or spiritual heaviness, it acts like a knot in a long thread. No matter how hard you pull, the thread cannot move smoothly until the knot is undone. I remember hearing a story from a Jerusalem scholar who counseled many families struggling financially. He told me that in more than one home, he discovered the same hidden pattern, a single overlooked object carrying the energy of misfortune. Sometimes it was tucked in a drawer, sometimes it sat on a shelf in plain sight. But every time it was removed, the atmosphere of the house changed, almost as if someone opened a window that had been sealed for years. And when we translate this ancient wisdom into daily life, it becomes astonishingly practical. You begin to see your home not as a storage unit, but as an instrument. Every object is a string, and together they either create harmony or dissonance. Prosperity is not invited by chance, it is invited by alignment. So when the sages caution against keeping certain items, they are not speaking of superstition, they are speaking of spiritual physics. They are teaching us that abundance responds to the energy we cultivate, that money follows clarity, that blessing seeks order. And now, as these ideas settle into place, we are prepared to uncover the deeper psychological mechanics behind this phenomenon, the ones that make the forbidden objects so deceptively powerful. As these ancient teachings shimmer beneath the surface of your awareness, another layer begins to unfold, one that blends the spiritual with the psychological in a way that feels almost inevitable. Because the truth is this, your mind reacts to your environment long before you consciously interpret it. Every object carries a message, and your brain reads that message whether you want it to or not. That is why clutter weighs on your chest even when you pretend you do not see it. Why a broken item irritates you even when you never touch it, and why a symbol of loss quietly drains your motivation without ever speaking a word. Modern psychology calls it cognitive load. Jewish wisdom calls it spiritual noise. But the effect is the same. When your surroundings echo scarcity, your nervous system enters a subtle state of contraction. You think smaller, you risk less, you breathe shallowly. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, your relationship with money shifts into one of fear rather than expansion. There is a saying I once heard from an elderly Mizrahi woman, spoken with the kind of humor that hides deep truth. A sleeping crocodile becomes a handbag. She meant that the moment you stop paying attention, life turns you into something useful for others instead of something powerful for yourself. And in the context of prosperity, losing awareness of your environment is exactly how you slip into patterns of self-sabotage. This happens because your brain is constantly scanning for cues about safety and abundance. When it detects objects tied to stagnation, endings, or financial struggle, it assumes that caution is wiser than ambition. It dims your creative impulses, narrows your field of possibilities, and reinforces the belief that thriving is dangerous or unrealistic. But here is the deeper truth, the one that sits beneath both science and spirituality. The energy you keep around you shapes the identity you step into. If your home is filled with echoes of who you were in seasons of scarcity, your subconscious will keep you loyal to that version of yourself. You will hesitate, delay, doubt, unconsciously protecting an identity that no longer matches your desires. And this is why the forbidden object has so much power. Not because of its material form, but because of what it represents in the architecture of your internal world. It is a symbol of a chapter you should have closed, a reminder of an emotional frequency you no longer wish to inhabit. And as long as it remains in your space, it pulls you backward. Now that we've seen how psychology and spiritual law intertwine, the outline of the forbidden object grows sharper, more recognizable. You may already suspect what category it belongs to, but suspicion is not enough. To truly understand its impact, we must finally reveal its identity and the reason it has followed humanity across centuries as a quiet enemy of prosperity. And that revelation is where our path now turns. The time has come to unveil what has been hiding in plain sight. The object that seems harmless enough to sit quietly in your home, yet carries the vibration of endings so heavy that it can suffocate your prosperity without ever touching your bank account. And before I name it, feel what rises in your body. Curiosity, tension, maybe even a strange sense of recognition. Because part of you already knows that the greatest obstacles are seldom dramatic. They are ordinary things infused with extraordinary weight. The forbidden object is this. Anything in your home that is broken, cracked, torn, or no longer functional, especially if you have kept it out of guilt, nostalgia, or fear of letting go. It may be a chipped dish, a watch that no longer ticks, a wallet with a torn lining, a mirror with a fracture running through it, or even an old purse associated with a season of financial struggle. In Jewish spiritual law, broken objects carry the energy of interruption, an incomplete vessel that cannot hold blessing. And when you keep them, you keep the frequency of lack alive. The lie, the one we all tell ourselves is, it's not a big deal, it's just an object. But the sages teach that there is no such thing as just an object. A broken item is a silent contract with stagnation. It whispers, I accept imperfection that blocks flow. I tolerate what cannot serve me. I hold space for what is fractured. And every time your eyes pass over it, even unconsciously, your spirit registers the message. There was a study conducted by an Israeli behavioral economics group some years ago showing that people who lived surrounded by broken or non-functional objects saw an average 12% decrease in financial optimism, decision-making clarity, and risk tolerance. 12%, not because the objects had any physical power, but because they trained the mind into subtle resignation. And resignation is the enemy of prosperity. But here is where the tension softens into hope. The moment you remove the broken object, you create a vacuum. And in spiritual physics, a vacuum is an invitation. The absence of the old becomes a doorway for the new. The discarded item becomes a declaration. I am ready for vessels that can hold blessing. I am ready for function, for flow, for growth. Never forget this. Money is not only a number, it is a current. It seeks places where movement is welcome. And a home filled with broken things is like a river filled with stones. It flows, but weakly, reluctantly, hesitantly. Now that the forbidden object has been revealed, the question becomes, what should take its place? What object or practice opens the doors that the broken one kept shut? And more importantly, how do you align your environment with the frequency of abundance so fully that prosperity recognizes your home as a place where it belongs? Now that the broken object has been named and its influence exposed, we step into the part of the journey where everything shifts. The moment when removal alone is no longer enough. Nature, after all, despises emptiness. In Jewish mysticism, a void is not an ending. It is an invitation that demands to be filled with intention. So after clearing away what was fractured, you must place something in its absence that carries the opposite frequency: movement, blessing, readiness. And here is where the replacement principle reveals itself in 3 quiet words that have transformed more lives than I can count. The phrase is simple: thank God I'm growing. It is the antidote to stagnation, the counterweight to anything broken, the spiritual magnet that aligns your home with abundance. These words are not poetry, they are architecture. They reshape the inner landscape where your decisions are born. They declare that you have stepped out of resignation and into participation with your own prosperity. Let's break it down the way a mystic would. Thank God is gratitude, the foundation of every vessel capable of holding blessing. Gratitude expands capacity. It tells the universe, I notice the light already here. And where light is acknowledged, more light gathers. I'm working is movement, the opposite of stagnation. Even if the work is small, even if it is internal, movement signals spiritual vitality. It tells the universe, I am not waiting for prosperity to rescue me. I am preparing a path for it to arrive. And I'm growing is openness, the energy of expansion. Growth is a declaration of readiness, a refusal to shrink into old identities. It tells the universe, I have space for more. I am becoming a vessel worthy of abundance. When these three forces, gratitude, movement, and growth combine, they create a field around you that attracts opportunity like iron to a magnet. Words are not mere sounds, they are frequencies. And this particular frequency cleans the residue left behind when you remove the broken object. Here is your practical step. Set a daily alarm on your phone. 9 o'clock in the morning works beautifully. And when it rings, speak the phrase out loud. Speak it even if you don't fully believe it yet. Speak it especially if you don't believe it yet. Jewish wisdom teaches that the mouth educates the heart. Identity follows declaration. As this practice settles into your life, you'll notice subtle changes, sharper intuition, lighter decisions, increased momentum. And slowly, the energy around your home begins to match the energy within you. But before we celebrate the transformation, we must understand how real people, ordinary people, have lived this shift and witnessed results far beyond coincidence. Their stories hold a mirror to yours, and one of them might just carry the key you didn't know you were missing. I want to take you now into the stories of those who lived this transformation in the flesh. People who removed the broken object, embraced the new declaration, and watched their lives rearrange themselves in ways they could never have predicted. Because wisdom becomes real when it touches someone's life, and every story of change is a lantern held up for the next traveler on the path. There was a woman named Donna Luzia, gentle in voice yet weathered by years of financial struggle. Her home carried the quiet heaviness of someone who had learned to expect little. When we spoke, she confessed she kept certain broken items because they belonged to a time when money was tight, and throwing them away felt like disrespecting her own survival. A cracked bowl, an old purse with the lining torn, a mirror chipped in the corner. They remind me of where I've been, she said. And I answered softly, yes, but they also trap you there. She hesitated, but something in her shifted that day. She began walking through her house slowly, touching each object as if listening for the truth it carried. When her fingers rested on the torn purse, kept from the hardest season of her life, her eyes filled with tears. She finally understood that she wasn't honoring her past, she was anchoring herself to it. She removed it gently, almost ceremonially, as though releasing an old wound from her body. And what happened after was nothing short of remarkable. Within 1 week, 7 full days, her daughter received a job offer that solved a debt that had weighed on the whole family. Within 1 month, Luzia herself was invited into a business opportunity she had never considered. She told me, it felt like the air changed in my home. As if blessing was waiting outside, and the moment I removed that purse, it said, now I can finally enter. Her story is not unique. I recall a man named David who kept a broken watch in a drawer because it had belonged to his father. He thought the sentimental value protected it from the laws of stagnation. But emotion does not cancel spiritual physics. The watch held the vibration of a time that had ended, a cycle that could not continue. When he finally released it and began affirming, thank God I'm growing, he noticed a shift not only in finances but in courage. Within 3 days, 3 sacred days, he took action on a business idea he had postponed for years. That idea later became his primary source of income. What these stories reveal is universal. You do not need to be Jewish or spiritual or even confident. The law works because it is based on alignment, not identity. The universe responds to readiness the way a seed responds to rain. And now that you've witnessed how real lives transform when environment and intention harmonize, we can widen the frame even more to understand the grand architecture of Jewish prosperity and why these principles have endured for millennia. As these stories settle into your mind, a broader truth emerges, one that stretches far beyond individual objects, broken items, or mourning declarations. In Jewish wisdom, prosperity is not a stroke of luck nor a cosmic accident. It is the natural result of alignment between your actions, your environment, and your spiritual posture. Words create worlds, choices carve pathways, and the energy you cultivate becomes the energy that returns to you. This principle is woven through the Torah, the Talmud, and the teachings of countless sages who understood abundance not as possession but as participation in divine flow. The creation story itself whispers this truth. God said, and there was. Speech is the engine of reality. When you speak stagnation, you build walls. When you speak growth, you open gates. The same law applies to your home. What you allow to remain becomes a silent proclamation of who you believe yourself to be. A broken object declares broken expectations. A repaired environment declares readiness. The universe does not respond to your wishes, it responds to your structure. This is the Jewish philosophy of prosperity. Blessing is invited, not demanded. It descends into vessels that can hold it, vessels of clarity, order, gratitude, and courage. And whenever your physical space contradicts the abundance you seek, the blessing waits, not because it is withheld, but because it has nowhere to land. That is why our tradition emphasizes tikkun, correction, refinement, alignment. Prosperity is not something you chase, it is something you prepare for. You stand at a crossroads every day, choosing between two worlds, the world of stagnation or the world of growth. One keeps you loyal to the version of yourself shaped by scarcity. The other invites you to step into the identity of someone who expects abundance as naturally as breath. And the difference between the two is rarely dramatic. Sometimes it is as simple as removing a cracked plate from your kitchen or a damaged wallet from your drawer. Sometimes it is as subtle as speaking, "Thank God I'm growing," with sincerity instead of resignation. So here is my challenge to you. Test these principles for 7 days, just 7. Remove the broken object. Clear a small space. Speak your declaration aloud. Make choices that reflect the person you are becoming, not the person you have been. Jewish wisdom teaches that when you move even a finger toward growth, heaven moves an entire world toward you. And abundance begins with the smallest alignment. But before we close this journey, there is one more piece, one final blessing, and a call that carries the heart of this entire teaching forward. And that final step, gentle but powerful, is the doorway we now approach. You've walked with me through the shadows and the light, through the broken object and the vessel that replaces it, through the stories of those who chose alignment and watched abundance return to their door. Now, as this journey draws to a close, I want to leave you with the essence of everything we uncovered, distilled into one simple truth. Never declare everything is fine when your spirit knows you are called to expand. Instead, say the words that open the gates of blessing. Thank God I'm growing. These words reshape the way you move, the way you choose, and the way prosperity finds you. They anchor your heart in gratitude, your mind in movement, and your soul in expansion. Because in the end, prosperity is not about money. It is about readiness. When you remove what is broken, you are not discarding an object. You are shedding an identity. When you speak growth, you are not reciting a phrase. You are aligning your life with divine flow. Everything you have learned here is a reminder that abundance is not distant. It has always been waiting at the threshold of your home, searching for a vessel that can hold it without cracking. And now, with intention reshaped and your environment renewed, you have become that vessel. So may this blessing reach you wherever you are listening. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift his countenance upon you and grant you peace. May your home be a dwelling of clarity, your hands be instruments of growth, and your words be seeds that bloom into abundance. Now I ask you to take one last step, not for me, but for the circles of people whose lives intertwine with yours in ways you may never see. Share this message with 3 people who need it, 3 souls who are carrying something broken in silence, 3 hearts ready for a shift but unaware of the doorway waiting before them. May your home be a dwelling of clarity, your hands be instruments of growth, and your words be seeds that bloom into abundance. When you send this forward, you become part of the chain of alignment that has carried Jewish wisdom across centuries. And as you continue your journey beyond this moment, remember, prosperity flows where gratitude breathes, where movement continues, where the vessel is whole and ready. Remove what is broken, speak what invites blessing, and walk with the quiet confidence of someone who knows that growth is not just possible, it is already on its way to you.